Great.
At 7 a.m. This is too early, for many of us. But this is an exciting topic. I'm very, very happy to be here. And thank you, Claudia, for the introduction and setting the stage for this wonderful, wonderful topic. So we know about sustainability. Everybody wants to achieve more with less. Whether it is on a personal front, you want to lose weight, or get a little more energy to do a little more things. It's all about sustainability, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. Very interesting topic. We'll look at different dimensions of this topic, and we are going to see how it can impact us, at different levels. So without much delay, I will get started. We're going to address it in multiple aspects. The first is sustainability. What that means, right, to all of us. And we're going to try and understand that part. Second part is innovation. Innovation is very important, right? And we hear about so many organizations, and we're going to have some case studies here, examples of organizations which were doing brilliantly, which were floundering, and which were floundering, and they became brilliant organizations. What makes that transition? So we're going to talk about that. We have some case studies and examples where this sustainability thought process has been applied, and these organizations have turned around, seen much benefit. Environment sustainability we are going to talk a lot about, and that's where Ram is going to share some insights. What are the trends in today's world for organizations to be more environment-centric, and how this whole thing can be integrated. And at the end, we are going to wrap with total business excellence. This is an integrated model which is trademarked by bizXL Solutions, but this helps align everything together. So whatever we are doing, how all the different pieces can be brought together so that we have a total business excellence. So this is the agenda for today. We have a power-packed agenda. So if you have any questions, I would request you to keep noting down the questions. We'll have time for the Q&A at the end, so that we are able to share a lot of information for you, which you can take back and start to use. So 360-degree sustainability, how to achieve more with less. Let's take a minute, and if you were to think about this topic of 360-degree sustainability, how would you achieve more with less, and in what context? Okay, so I would like all of you to think what this means to you, and if you have resources and you want to improve, what would you do? What would you like to make more sustainable? And where would you see the application? Okay, so 30 seconds more. Okay, I think you have got a chance to reflect on this word, right, sustainability. So is there anybody who thought about himself or herself when you were thinking about sustainability? How you can make yourself more sustainable, more relevant to whatever you are, improving your own existence. Did anybody think about that? Can we see raise of hands? Great, so that's the first level. Did anybody think about the family of which you are an integral part? How do you make your family more sustainable?
True.
Yes, I see some hands there. Did anybody think about the community of which you are a part of, making more sustainable? A few hands here as well, yes. Did you think about the workplace of which you are a part of, how do you make it more sustainable? Yes, I see more hands on the workplace side. Did you think about the community, the county, the state of which you are a part of? Not very many people thought that level, right? Did you think about the country of which you are a part of? Anybody? One person. Did you think about the world of which we are a part of? So that is, so a couple of hands there. So that is the huge impact, starting with the individual to the world, that we can have under the umbrella of sustainability. So this is a very broad and connected topic. So whatever is our state, wherever we are, we can think about it and create an impact on sustainability. That's how broad and impactful this can be. Okay, so how can we as business leaders create more value? Any answers? Anybody wants to say anything? How can we create more value? We want to create more, do more with less. That means we want to create more value. If we have to be more sustainable over a longer period of time, but how do we create more value?
Innovation.
Sorry?
Innovation.
Innovation, great. Yeah. Any other?
More knowledge.
More knowledge, right? Yeah. So there are a lot of answers to this question, but one answer, if we look at the whole, all the dimensions of sustainability that we just discussed, if we look at all those, that answer is by reducing, we can begin by creating less waste. Does it make sense? In our world, whatever we are doing today, we are doing a lot of effort. There is a lot of work happening. Now, either we are creating value or we are creating waste. Now, if we can focus or channelize our time, our energy in creating more of value and less of waste, we are going to be relevant. And the definition of value is something which also we'll talk a little more about. But this is about creating more value and less waste. As we start minimizing waste, we start maximizing value creation. And that's what leads to sustainability. So there are different, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to look at this from multiple dimensions, sustainability. Right? So the first dimension, so there are three different broad dimensions. 360-degree sustainability, when we say, we are looking at the economic aspect of sustainability. We are looking at the social aspect. We are looking at the environment aspect. Now the beauty is, all these three are interdependent. They are integrated. If there is a business which is going to be economically sustainable, they are going to have partners, they're going to have vendors, they're going to have customers, they're going to have an impact employees, which is a social aspect. So how they have the policies and the processes to onboard those partners, the vendors, how they qualify them is going to help and create an impact on the social framework. The environment, the way you tap into the resources which are available, the way you access those resources, that is another aspect which is important. Right? And when you're doing your economic business priorities, you're focusing on them, at times we can get very greedy. We don't focus on the environment, and that creates a lot of issues. So when we are looking at the three aspects, so the economic is the first part, and I think that's all are equally important, but this is the engine which propels other two. So if there is a business unit, the sustainability of the business unit, business entity will lead to more jobs, more partners, more affluence in that area, and which is the social part. If the social well-being is there, and then we also are aware about how we are tapping into the resources, the flora, the fauna, the environment which is around us, how we are accessing the environment, and how we are utilizing the resources. So I'm on a board of a not-for-profit, Reed Green Solutions, that there is a challenge that they do. I have not been successful in that challenge, but I'll tell you what the challenge is. They give you a small can of, it's I think 500 ml, and in 1 week, whatever waste you're generating you should be able to fit in that can. So if you're sipping coffee, you have that box that you trash. We don't think about it, right? So now that when you start thinking that way, you are always going to look at, can you reuse your cup? Can you carry your jar? That just one thing forces people to think very differently, because you have to manage all the waste that you are generating, knowingly or unknowingly, and there's a measurement standard there, right? But there are some people who are able to manage. The managing director of that organization is able to manage. She tries to ride a bicycle even if it is a further away distance. She goes walking. That is that is her commitment to creating sustainability, and she leads by an example, right? So the small differences that we can make in our lives, small changes can help us get a lot of value. and create value for the environment around us and the society. So we can lead by an example, right? So it's good for these three things are all quite connected. So environment, adopting practices that support and preserve the environment. So if a business is tapping into resources, how can we tap into the resources without depleting the oil, the water, the air, the soil, the basic elements of nature? By preserving them, if we are able to still create economic value, that's the model that we are going to look at. So a lot of organizations, large global organizations like Walmart or even Apple and many others are making those policies that if you are a partner with them, you have to qualify some of these standards. You have to have commitment to corporate social responsibility. So this is a very important aspect. And it all starts with the individual. So as individuals, if we start thinking and owning the sustainability, then it starts influencing our thought process. And all these three things are not mutually exclusive. Many times business leaders think that just economic part is what they have to think about. And focusing on other two things is not an integrated approach. It will reduce their profitability. But over a long term, they have to be sustainable. The communities have to be sustainable, the social part. If the employee pool has to be sustainable, they have to have a workforce coming to work for them, which is aligned with what they are looking for. So the skill set, you said, Patrick, knowledge. Yeah, the knowledge that people are acquiring, you have to keep upgrading yourself to be sustainable and relevant. So those are very important aspects. So when I think about sustainability, I think about relevance over a long period of time, right? Relevance over a long period of time. That's the simplest way or a definition of this concept. Very interesting. So some of these brands on top, you have seen those brands. How many of you actually have used Blockbuster? Okay, great. Yeah. So where is Blockbuster today?
One place in Oregon.
One place in Oregon.
Bend, Oregon has the last one.
Right, last one. Okay, so yeah, so for the museum. But Blockbuster, but see, that is the thing. Blockbuster was a leader in what they were doing in that space. Netflix was a $50 million company. In 2000, they approached Blockbuster. And when they approached Blockbuster, they said, you want to buy us out? $50 million market cap? Blockbuster said, oh, who's going to get CDs on the mail? Right? That was the model that time. Where is Blockbuster today? Dinosaur. Where is Netflix today? $150 billion market capitalization. 50 million to 150 billion. That is sustainability. That is innovation, as you said. That is the way of thinking differently. That is how you create value, right? JCPenney, Borders, and Sears I'll address together. So JCPenney, Borders, and Sears, Amazon actually nailed them, right? So Amazon, when Amazon started, Jeff Bezos, he had a very simple operating model. He said, in every employee in my organization needs to be obsessed about the customer. And customer, we are going to create a very simple operating model, just three things. The customer needs just three things. And what are those three things? The variety, the ease of doing business, and delivery, speed of delivery, cost. So variety, cost, and speed of delivery. And he has been pushing the envelope since he started till today. So now, the other day, my son was looking for something, and I ordered it the night. At 10 a.m., it was at my door. At night, about 11 p.m., I placed an order. 10 a.m., it was at my door. So that is customer delight, right? So these companies, JCPenney, Sears, and Borders, initially when Amazon was coming out with books, nobody thought, and people were saying, who is going to go to the store, go online and buy books? People like to go and feel the books and buy the books. But see what has happened. Things have changed. So what is important is an open mind of experimentation is very important, right? So many times we make decisions. This is right, this is wrong. But we have to be open to learn and try different things to be sustainable and relevant over a longer period of time. And that's a very important aspect. Blackberry, how many of you had a Blackberry? How many of you have a BlackBerry? That's the sustainability, right? And we're going to talk a little more about BlackBerry. So these are some of the products. What's common among these products? First one is, you recognize, this is a Google Glass, right? So Google had a lot of hopes on this product. They're still trying to redesign and create, but they got into a lot of issues with privacy and other things, right? So that I didn't go through. This is the phone which Facebook launched. Have you seen this phone? So a company like Facebook can launch a product which none of us have seen, right? So it's a marketplace failure. So why do we create a product like this, which no one wants? So innovation with experimentation, getting the feel of the market, what the consumers want, right? That's important. This is Satisfries. A Burger King, they wanted to launch, they said, okay, there is a trend going on, everybody is getting healthy, so we are going to have this fries, which will not have oil, it will be like, it didn't taste good. Nobody cared for it. So this was a flop, and BlackBerry is BlackBerry, right? So, how are we doing so far?
Good.
Good? Okay, very good. BlackBerry. Oh, this is a lag time. Okay. So there was a time when BlackBerry had a market capitalization of $81 billion. This was not very far back, it was just a decade back, in 2008. And what is market capitalization of BlackBerry today? It's about $5 billion. Okay? So what changed? This was a company that every senior leader worldwide would aspire to own a BlackBerry. And I used one, and I was very happy with the BlackBerry. I was not looking for an iPhone, right? And this had seemingly the best security and best features that time. When BlackBerry was launched, Apple, as an organization, said that when Apple was launched, BlackBerry leaders, they discounted Apple. They said, these products are good for people, for kids to play, for children to play. It's not going to be embraced by executives. And they just discounted it. 2 or 3 years later, when Apple already was like gaining that strength, that time BlackBerry started to develop a new product which was similar to touch screen and all that. It was too little, too late. Market had moved. Customer preferences, when they change very rapidly, right? And there is initial inertia for a new product or a new design. But once it changes, it can just take over. And that's what happened. So you should see here in the initial phase, 2003 or 5, when iPhone launched, there was a dip in BlackBerry. But then some customers who were loyal customers to the keyboard and the ball, which was there in the BlackBerry instrument, they still went back. They said, okay, I still prefer my BlackBerry, and went back. But then Apple continued to come, and you see the fall. The reason for Apple to gain market share and BlackBerry to lose was not just the product. The product BlackBerry was not bad. What was bad, what they did not think about, was the ecosystem. The ecosystem which had the iTunes, the music, the other things, all the apps, the App Store, which enhanced the capability of an individual to do multiple things using the phone. So it was not just the phone. It was the ecosystem which was created, which made Apple more relevant than BlackBerry as a tool, as a system. And that's what fundamentally changed. Let's look at our favorite brand, Apple. But do you know that Apple was close to filing for bankruptcy in 1997? How many of you know that? Yes, Apple was close to filing for bankruptcy. And that is the time when Steve Jobs was brought in. When Steve Jobs was brought in 1997, any guesses? What was the market capitalization of Apple? One donut free for the person with the right answer. Any guesses?
100 million.
Sorry?
100 million.
100 million. Very close. Any other guess? Okay, I'll show you. It is 44.5 million. a company which just 2 decades back was 50 million, less than $50 million, is having a market capitalization of $911 billion as of last few days back when I looked at numbers. That's huge, huge growth, huge sustainability, huge value creation. How and why, we're going to talk a little more about it. But this is Blackberry you saw. It had an $81 billion market capitalization. It came to $5 billion. Apple, from less than $50 million, it came back to $900 billion. That's huge value creation. Now, when you're looking at our businesses, that is the lens that we have to look at. Are we creating value? Are we constantly reinventing ourselves to be so relevant and sustainable over a long period of time? And that is the power of this thing, the thought process, right? So Steve Jobs, he was very brilliant. I mean, now he's no more, soul rest in peace. But some of the things, some people don't like him, some people love him. So you have your own personality. But one thing which I admire him for, he was obsessed with creating something which is very simplistic. So if our product or service, whatever we create, is very simplistic for the customer, the consumer, the user to access, then it becomes world-class. It has an ability to scale up very, very quickly. So instead of focusing on too many features, if we focus on the features which the customer really cares for, and understand from the lens of the customer. So that is something which is going to help. So if we look at coming back to the 360-degree sustainability, the business, the environment, and the society are integral elements. So what is required is a system thinking. So it is an integrated thinking. When you're looking at your business, how are you looking at all the other stakeholders? Whether it's the community, whether it's the employees, whether it's the partners that you're dealing with, and how your processes are defined and designed for those things, and how it can be made sustainable over a longer period of time. We define policies or procedures, and then over the business changes, the customer environment changes, the demographics change, but we don't change. So if we are at the same point, then we are going to be in the museum and not in the future. So we don't want to be in the museum, we want to be in the future. And we want to be part of the future, which is exciting, and we can create that future, which is exciting. And that's what is important. Okay, so we spoke about Blackberry and Apple and Amazon and Borders and all those different organizations, and why we need to change. Why do we need to innovate? We need to innovate because the landscape in which we are is not static. The landscape in which we are is changing. And what is changing? So the internet has leveled the playing field. Now today, if we are in the United States, there could be a company in China, in Asia somewhere, or in Africa, which can have the same idea. Somebody has an idea, they can access the web, and they can get any information from anywhere. So that opportunity is available to anybody, anywhere in the world. So it's a very different landscape. Cloud. So cloud computing is creating unforeseen opportunities for low-cost collaboration within organizations, across organizations, across geographies, and all that kind of stuff. Data. Now data, the amount of data that we're generating today, in every year, the amount of data that we're going to create is almost 90% of what has been created so far in the history. Look at the magnitude of data which we are creating. Every year, I will repeat, every year we are creating almost 80 to 90% of the data which exists as of now. So the pictures that we are taking, the messages that we are sending, it's all data. And it is somewhere getting stored, right? Infinite data, which is, now this is becoming an opportunity. Many organizations are tapping into this data to create businesses and business models. And now that's where the opportunity is. Cloud-based. A lot of companies which are cloud-based, they're providing cloud services. Microsoft's Azure or IBM has a capability. Amazon has a capability on cloud services. So those are things which are creating a lot of opportunities. Demographics. So demographics are changing. In United States, in Canada, in North America, we have the elderly population, which is growing. Now what that leads to lesser people who are going to be working. That leads to opportunities for healthcare organizations who can pivot to provide customized care for elderly. They might be looking for care which is customized to their needs, delivered right at the comfort of their home. So those are opportunities which are based on demographics. And now if we don't tap into these opportunities, there's going to be a problem. I'm reading an article or news, Japan's Prime Minister was saying that they really need to open up their immigration policy because they have too many elderly people and they don't have a working population. Their working population is getting depleted. So the environment, the country, the governments have to start thinking about the social fabric also. So now it's the sustainability of the country in that scenario. If you have the demographics to support the growth of a country, you are going to be sustainable. Mobile, how many of us go to a bank to do our banking today? Day-to-day banking? Nobody.
But
Right?
they're wonderful here.
It's beautiful here, right? So the trend is changing, right? So it's beautiful here, but the trend is changing. 10 years back, or 15 years back, how many of us were comfortable doing banking online? Very few, right? So this is a change. So now if a bank says, oh, we have the best beautiful branches, and we are going to, all the customers will keep coming to our branch, you will be a dinosaur. You have to understand the changing preferences of the consumer, right? So we don't want to get stuck to what is today. Because to be relevant in the future, to be sustainable and create value in the future, we have to understand the dynamics. Social. So we want to be connected with everyone, right? So internet-based social media, like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and the list goes on. So all these are business models which are created and tapping into the social connectivity that we are having today. So now we look at this, because of all these things, the global operating model. Now some of the organizations have to tap into the global operating model because, one, to de-risk their business. The second is also to access the capability across globally. So today, in today's world, you don't necessarily need to have everybody sitting at one location. With the tools and the technology, virtually, you can work seamlessly. That's the global operating. Now, all these things are leading to a big change in the customer preferences. Now, if the customer who is going to pay for your products or services wants to do business differently, is looking for something different value proposition, then that's something which has to be delivered to be relevant and sustainable. So all these are drivers of change which lead to change in customer preferences, and that's why we need to change. So organizations which spend time in understanding the customer insights and create this continuum are going to be more relevant and successful at being sustainable over a longer period of time. Two quick case studies. So this is a manufacturing facility, a manufacturing plant which was on the verge of closure, and there were a lot of issues. So in-process quality was an issue. Defects coming from the assembly plant were issues. There were inventory getting piled up was an issue. So all the issues that you can think about were there, and the annualized, if you look at the inventory turns, which is a financial measure, was only 1.3. So inventory turns means cost of goods sold divided by the average inventory. So that's the formula. You can look through it. But this was 1.3. So they were able to rotate their capital 1.3 times in a given year, right? Which was very, very low for a manufacturing facility. And because of all this, they were making losses. And this was a world-class organization with a lot of support, but it was just not working. So when the whole deep diagnostic assessment was done for this organization, and then using the lean methodology and some of the other things to focus what is value, and how can the value only be created and the waste not be created. So they were creating a lot of things which was not good quality. Now good quality, now they think it's good quality, it goes to the customer sends it back. Oh, I found one defect in this, or the whole batch comes back. Now they don't know what to do with this batch, how bad or how good that is. so they're in process, their whole process, a whole value stream to the customer, from the customer to the time the order is received till the time they ship the order and the order is in good quality, everything was re-looked at. And the inventory turns were improved drastically. So that led to a significant improvement, 4.7 times. So they were able to rotate the capital 4 times more, nearly, and that led to a huge improvement in the performance of the plant, and it survived. It's doing very, very well. Next one is a example of a financial services organization. Now they were having a difficult time in multiple aspects, right? So the customers were not happy. This is a financial services organization. The onboarding experience was bad. The cost per unit processed was high. So in the industry continuum, they were like very low in that. It was a global brand, but their performance was very, very low, and they were like in real problem. They identified a real problem. They wanted. So when the diagnostic assessment we conducted there, we found a lot of things, simple things which were practical, which were creating a lot of waste. And we identified them and we helped them improve that. So there were a lot of processes in between which had been there. People were doing things for a long time, and when we asked questions, why are you doing this? Oh, we have been doing it the same way. Have you heard this in your organization? We have been always doing it like this, right? That's what the answer was, but it was not adding value. It was creating waste. So we had to just realign those things, and it resulted in a lot of significant improvements. So what is important is sometimes if you are doing something, it is important to do a deeper dive with the outside-in perspective. Now, when I say outside-in perspective, I mean the lens of these drivers. And there might be more drivers and relevant to your organization. So how do these capabilities, which are now reshaping the business models, are going to impact the way you are doing business? And if this is the lens that you start bringing back to your organization, it will help create more value and be more sustainable. I just wanted to mention here before we move here. So innovative problem solving with IDEA. So IDEA is a trademark that again we have applied for. This is a program that we designed for in partnership with Rutgers Business School. So and I'm not a faculty, but I'm a lead faculty for this program on innovation. This is again a lens of how to solve the business problem. Many times what happens is, and Blackberry was a classic case, I'll go back to that. The leadership had the resources, they had the best capitalization, market capitalization. They was one of the leaders, $81 billion. So they had the money, they could have hired, engaged anybody, any kind of capability to build a product or a service that they would have, that would have made them sustainable and relevant. But they decided not to do that. So what is important is sometimes discounting the competition is bad. There are a lot of new startups which are coming in and they are disrupting the marketplace. So small company, few young kids, because they don't have biases. The issue comes because we are doing things with a particular lens and we have been doing it for ages that way. That creates sometimes a hindrance. And especially when we have been very successful, when we are successful like Sears or JCPenney or Borders, so these organizations, when you are very successful, the leaders think that we know what is right, we have been doing it for ages, it works, we don't need to change. But for sustainability over a long period of time, that is a very important aspect, that we have to be open to change, we have to be open to experimentation, we have to learn to try new things. Some things will work and something will not work. Things won't work, we learn from them and improve. And that's the important part of this. With this, I'll pass on the baton to my partner in crime,
Thanks.
Ram. Thank you.
Which button am I pushing on this to move forward?
You can just put this arrow down.
Well, thank you for taking the time and coming here. Last slide, he was talking about some businesses which didn't listen to the change. We happen to be in the town with Kodak and Xerox. We won't put that here, but
It was in my earlier slide.
But you look at any operation, there are always different ways of doing it, and when you do it for a long time, you are able to sort of ignore anything new because you're used to the comfort value of doing the same thing is much easier. My part in this presentation deals with the consumables, the environmental factors, the things you buy. So the business side, Chandler has covered. In the business, you are consuming resources. So from an environmental perspective, with Earth Day reminder that we have, this is the month, and perhaps on that day, each one of you should think about what are we going to do differently that helps the environment, helps resources to be not wasted. So waste reduction, cost reduction, they all go together. If you're buying water from Monroe County Water Authority, and if there's a way to reduce your water consumption by 30%, you're not buying that water and somebody else can use it. They don't have to spend in building bigger plants. So conservation is a factor that applies to all the things that you buy, all the things that you create. You know, Chandler talked about the waste management issue. How much waste goes out of the plant? And where does it go? How far does it travel? Is there any way we don't have to send it? Is there any way somebody wants it and we can give it back to them? So my part on the environmental side is primarily looking at what are your consumption levels now? What is your existing pattern? So when we look at the operations, we talk to the folks on the floor and we look at what are the machines and equipment that you're using? How often does this pump work? How old is this equipment? Is there something better? And a lot of time what you hear from the people, staff on the floor, well, we have been telling the management to change this, but nobody listens because there are other priorities. So the message has to be that you need to look at internally and look at an assessment from the outside bunch of eyes that people who are in this business come in and evaluate the system and come up with the ideas, list of things that will save you money. So we'll be covering some projects here. It's 8:25.
You're doing well. You're doing well.
Doing well? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just take this journey and I'll show you some projects. Most of them are some local projects, but there were things done in Massachusetts about 10, 15 years ago. Just a little bit about how long I have been doing this. I came to Rochester, joined this company called Larsen Engineers in 1969. So it has been fun, and with the environmental degree from Clarkson, the fun is started now, and I'm saying, wait a minute, why wasn't it there before? So this whole climate change, climate solutions, saving money, all this good stuff. So it's so much fun that I have no intention till something happens to not do it. So I'm still involved and enjoying every minute of it. So green, depends upon which audience you are in. If I was in an area and I'm used to the word Democrats and social thinking people, then green means we got to save the world. We are flooding this and flooding that. But I also go to the meetings in towns where it's totally operated with 100% Republicans. And their focus is different, what green is. Their focus is we have to make money. Fortunately, both things are same things you do, but it's hard. So instead of saying green is will save the world, if I was talking to folks who are in business, which is the class here, you care about staying in business. And the way staying in business is by having your profits go up, your sales go up. And if you are able to do things which can qualify you as a sustainable practicing company, a green company, your green will be what you carry in the wallet or what you give as bonuses to employees. And that is true. So all the things we're going to talk about also result in this, happens to also help the environment, which we need to do. So just start with some examples. These names you will see, these are companies local. Most people don't realize that the power company, in this case RG&E or NICEC in this area, or National Grid, by law are required to offer their customers money to save power consumption. It's called demand reduction. So they have goals to conserve or reduce energy use. And they put it on their website and they send an email out, but most people don't even know that it's there. But they need to meet those goals. So a company like us, we help them find these savings. So these are all examples of projects where the utility paid most of the time more than 50% of the cost of the improvements, because they want to comply with the state's requirement of saving energy in order to sell power to the customer. And these are not small dollars. So let me see, Berry Plastic, 73,000. Garlock was 449,000. This was a check I took with me as a rebate to the company for saving energy. The beautiful part is, if you save energy on day one, you will keep saving it as long as you operate. So for them, the paybacks were a year and a half, something very, very attractive. So both people are winning. The consumer is winning, the power company is happy, they were able to tell the government, hey, we saved so many kilowatt hours. So these are the things which are there for any one of these opportunities. When you do these things, these are the things as a company you can say, as sustainable company, we are looking at conservation. You can get recognized, you can see utilization of some ideas, innovation. We listened about innovation earlier. There are companies which are making things which will save you money, but because it's a different thing, you are uncomfortable doing it. It's our job to make sure that it works. And the way we stick our neck out is, there are projects we have done in Massachusetts with the Mass Electric Company, where the projects were based on, they call performance contracting. I'll pay you after you have saved the money. Which means you have to take the risk to buy the equipment, install the equipment, measure it before, after, then you get your paycheck. That means you really believe it's going to bring you the paycheck, you won't do it. So we have done projects under that scenario because it's common sense. You all have used LED bulbs. Would you wonder if it will save energy? Because it says there 12 watts, and this one says 60, so 60 is more than 12. So yeah, it will save energy. So those kinds of things, the compressors, the pumps which are wrong, and they're still running because Charlie bought it 15 years ago and it's still running, so why should we change? Well, that's 35% efficient, this one is 70%. If I change it, so those are the kinds of things that are all over in the floor. So looking at these benefits, these are the reasons why you should be looking at, why we should be looking at consumption and reduction in usage and whatnot. This is something very, very new that most people don't realize. You are empowered to become a power company yourself, if you want to be. And the utility, RG&E and these folks, will be happy, not happy I shouldn't say, will be required to take that power that you produce. So the examples here, sorry, move back. So what you see here is ways to make power. And these are not power that you are building a coal-fired power plant or a steam plant. These are simple things that you can do. Most common now is solar, that you can install solar. It doesn't have to be on your factory building in your house. It could be somewhere else. And the system of these power production, the government is supporting this very, very big, with doubling the value of the power they want to generate in New York State. So shifting to clean power, power that you produce so you own it, but before you build the power generation system, you want to make sure you're not producing it and then waste it. So the first step is conservation. Make sure that everything you have in your place, whether it's home, factory, or community, is as efficient as it can be. And then you produce the same kilowatt hours, you immediately become energy independent. Because for the rest of your operation, whatever kilowatt hours you use, you're producing somewhere else. And we have an example in Williamson, the town which in 2015, all the power they use is made at their garbage dump or landfill that they closed 25 years ago. So it's covered with 8 acres of solar panels, puts the power in the grid, and then it's allocated to all the meters that the town uses. So these are things which are possible in New York now. They were not there 10 years ago. And it's getting cheaper, so you can do it better. You've covered these things before, so I'm going to skip this, but this is good for everyone else. This is the news for this year. The governor changed the goal for New York State, 6 gigawatts. That's a huge jump. That's like about 6 nuclear power plants, like Guinea's nuclear power plant being built based on solar. And if you want to travel to Livingston County, a few years, maybe a couple of years from now, there will be an equivalent of 1 nuclear plant built in Genesee Valley between Mount Morris and Caledonia. 1 gigawatt, roughly. That's because they're going to have thousands of acres of the river flats where sometime it floods, covered with solar panels, producing power, putting it in, clean, no noise, nothing. And it's bringing the communities tax revenue for those systems. So, you know, they're getting millions of dollars per year for next 25 years for allowing a private sector company to build a solar plant. And the permitting is not 15, 20 years. If you're going to build a nuclear plant, you'll probably never get a permit. But solar, it's there. We're not doing anything with that land. It's low value. I'm not in favor of doing this kind of stuff in productive agricultural land or land that should be housing and other stuff. So most of these things are being built. Oops. I think it's voice command here, because it's moving and stuff. So solar, you know, when you talk about solar a few years ago, solar in Rochester, gee, you know it snows here, it's cold. Sun is not out every day. The good thing is the solar needs light, daylight, not sun. It certainly works more when the sun is out. So if it is cloudy, you're still going to produce power. So today it's more power. But if it was cloudy or winter, there's still power being made. So this is just trying to make a case that this is a good area for solar to be, for producing power. This is all, but when you look at these solar systems, they're on, each panel makes, let's say, 350 watts. So if you need to make more power, if you need to make more power, you need to have more area. That's where you look at the size of how many acres it takes. Most of the projects, the maximum allowed by the new regulation is 5 megawatts, and 5 megawatts takes about 40 acres of land. So we're looking at many projects. There is a lot of land areas available, especially contaminated area. Yesterday I was at a plant in Watertown area, and this factory has land area they bought, and they happened to, a few years ago, use that land for disposing some oil and stuff, and nobody cared, just dump it in. Then you get affected by the fact you are polluting the groundwater, so they clean it up, so they have 150 acres of land which is cleaned up, but they can't build anything on that. Perfect for solar farm to make power for themselves or somebody else that the community can use as community solar. These are all New York State energy programs. I should mention to you, a lot of time you think about NYSERDA. How many people know what NYSERDA is? It's a state agency. So right now, Five Star Bank, these lights are on, and every time your home lights or wherever you're consuming, you're paying a tax. So you hear NYSERDA grant. I call that not grant, but tax refund. You're paying for it, and it's going into the fund, and it's only for energy projects, so those who apply for it are getting a refund and using it for reducing their own cost or their own generation. So any of these projects that the state is promoting, whether it's solar or energy or LED lights or smart meters or efficient motors, stuff like that, all of that is for you to use more efficient systems, more better technology, and get paid as an incentive dollars that you paid in first. Mm-hmm. So any projects, any opportunity that come, you should try to take advantage of it. Now, energy is one part of it, but when you look at the climate change, climate solutions, stormwater is a big issue. Every day you watch the news, somewhere is flooding, or somewhere there's a fire. So there is stuff happening just because the way the whole environment is. This slide shows some of the examples of communities, and we are doing it in Rochester. This is happening. If you were in Brighton, the main street in Brighton, the town got a grant, and the water that goes off from the road goes into the site areas where you grow plants. So you are allowing water to go in the ground rather than run off. So this parking lot here is huge. Right now it's pure concrete surface. Every drop that falls has to go to the sewer. And what's happened is the sewer system, the storm sewers, are designed with formulas and tables which are 20 years old. The reality is the rain happening now is not what the chart said for the engineers to design. So all the sewer systems, storm sewers in every town are undersized. So if the rain, instead of 2 inches, 4 inches, you're going to have flooding. Well, what do you do with it? Well, at this stage, it's already built, but if there was a time to fix the parking lot, we would build a system of allowing some areas of pervious pavement. And there is a project that if you go to I-Square, you'll be able to see that happening. So you allow the rainwater to go in the ground and not become a runoff. Preferably, you allow the rainwater to be restored from rainwater harvesting into cisterns or tanks, and then use that water for non-potable use. So you can apply the idea of innovation and conservation into the water management, hopefully help the community, because if as a company, as a big plants, parking lots, if you are stopping the water from going in, downstream somewhere it's not causing flooding, because you are keeping it on the site. So this is just an example of what you see as a pervious pavement. You can have a recharge system. A lot of big projects now are being looked at. Any new project that you should have a combination of pervious and impervious. So you can see the rain falling, and on the side where the cars are parked, there's no water on the surface. In the center where the driving lane is, there is water, because there is a mixture used under the parking area is a porous, so the water just, if you hold that porous block under the faucet, the water just goes right through. So there are technologies and ideas to help in the environmental issues. They're using these, the dental school here in University of Rochester, their parking lot, this is not the picture of their parking lot, but the idea is there was a limit to how much water can you dump in the sewers from the town of Brighton point of view. So there was a system designed like this, where the water falls through, collected, and then it can be recycled and reused. So there are ways to make use of this. This is just a conceptual thing, geothermal energy. This is one way to say goodbye to oil, because you don't have to heat and air condition your home with natural gas or oil or whatever, because Earth it acts like a bank. We are in a bank, so I can say that. Earth acts like a bank. So imagine that you have heat coming out in summer, so hot. So you take the heat from the house and say, I'm going to deposit it in the bank. And it goes in the ground and heats up the soil. And the temperature of the soil 6 feet below in Rochester or Texas is the same. So if the soil can hold the temperature, you can use that heat to deposit in summer and withdraw it in winter. So this system takes the heat from the soil, brings it into the building, takes it in summer, puts it back. Costs money, and now they are giving tax credits and benefits. So very soon, you may be able to get a bank loan of 15, 20 years, because it does take a long time. But once it is paid, that heat exchange system is free. All you need is the energy to recirculate the fluid that goes through this loop. And that energy to turn that heat pump on, which is pretty efficient, comes from a solar panel that you have. So now you have a system that makes power, powers the pump that recirculates the liquid, maintains the building. So the idea of thermal, the heat exchange for geothermal heating is very, very efficient, and they're promoting this When they say geothermal, you're thinking of, oh, you got to go down 5 miles and take the heat out of the earth and then bring it up. It's only 6 feet. And there are projects in farmers, they have outside, just bring a trench around in the farm and put the coils and connect it and you're done. You don't have to drill down if you have land. This is an important slide here because you're looking at, we all are inside structures, buildings, 8-10 hours a day. At home we are at home. So this is the concept of Biophilia, and there was an award, excellence award ceremony here, and there was a gentleman here giving a talk about what is this Biophilia all about. As far as it directly affects the human performance. We are programmed to be near nature. We are programmed to feel good when we are near plants and water, and that's why when you go on vacation for a week, you don't go into Manhattan. You could, but a different objective, but you could go to a national park and you come back recharged. Well, what happens when you go to the office or work in a factory and the factory is totally closed? You can't even see outside. So bringing nature in the workspace and making it feel like you are connected is important. So the windows, this room is much better designed because you're sitting here, you know whether it's sunny or cloudy. So this is the concept of looking at all the things and then looking at the work environment and trying to match it so that you can. This is the future of transportation. It's here, coming, more and more cars and things, and after 2030 you probably won't be able to buy one because they won't make gasoline-driven cars. It's a big change, this mobility and electrification, but because we can make power and because we can use the equipment and things which are driven, so these are examples of companies going in for electric vehicles, and Rochester has a very aggressive program. There are incentives and rebates. It's all trying to shift us into a much cleaner fuel and fluids. This is an example of green roofs. There are a bunch of buildings now in the city. Rochester has a bunch of green roofs. But if you have a large building, and you can look at the malls and things, very large surface area, there is a significant loss, heat loss, through the roof. And then the roof has membrane on the rooftop, and every 15 years you have to replace it because the sun, violet rays and whatnot, the roof is now leaking. Okay, I got to replace the roof. Well, a green roof will provide a protection to that membrane, so sunlight will never directly hit it. And then it could also be a collection system, so the water going through the, and this is not the regular grass that you have to go up with a lawnmower and cut it. These are all plants, sedum plants, which only grow so much, and that's where they stay at that lifetime. So when you take these panels, install it, they give you a nice environment on the rooftop. You could even have a place that you can have lunchtime gathering or whatever. If you have space, then you can get to it. But these are the ideas they're looking at: reducing the heat loss, treating the rainwater falling through, collecting that rainwater, and then all the non-potable use is from that water. You're not buying it 100% treated water for just putting into the ground. So these are the kinds of environments. New York City has a special program just because of stormwater prevention. New York City has a program for reducing the stormwater on rooftop if a developer puts up a garden. So if you go to a high-rise building in New York, you will start seeing the green roofs, because there it's very important. Not that the entire building will be, but at least rainwater management, you're able to collect it and use it. This is a Route 104, a company, Harvick. How many people know Harvick? Well, they are, it is a great example of a company which could be as green as you could be. So they are the leaders. They are thinking of, so they had a problem a few years ago. The insurance company sent a notice that your insurance will go up by about $12,000 a year. Why? Because your hydrant in front of your plant doesn't have enough fire flow. And if there was a fire in your plant, a hydrant doesn't have enough gallons a minute to fight the fire, we're taking a bigger risk. So the entire roof of this building, we were able to collect the rainwater, create a pond in the back where the employees go and have their sandwiches. So it's a little pond. And the pond had heat exchange coils, so it uses the pond for the geothermal to cool down the equipment. So they are able to use multiple benefits and go green with the water retention and water recycling. And then obviously if you drive on 104, you'll see these windmills. The 2 windmills that they have. Took him almost 8 years to get a permit to build that. But here is his plant. This plant is producing more power than they use. Globally, they are known as the greenest company producing parts and things as green as they can be. Those are solar panels that you see next to the parking lot. So Bob has been able to take his business and make that as a model of sustainability. And his sales and his ability to sell to other companies. Chandler mentioned that there are companies which are going green and saying, if you're going to sell it to me, you got to show me what you're doing. So he's exceeding anyone's expectation, focusing on high technology. So here is an example of what can be done right here in our backyard. So this is Harvick, and you can now see the windmill. This is in Arundequite. How many people have been to I-Square? If you not go there, and you'll be able to see a lot more. This is a local businessman from Arundequite who was able to do something for the community. His feeling was, I've lived here, I've earned here, I've studied, I want to put back in my community. And the point made earlier, it starts with you, but what are you doing for your community? What are you doing for the state? Those kinds of things. So all these efforts kind of connect to ultimately the goal. So his point was to demonstrate sustainability here. So this whole project, that's where you will see pervious pavement, that's where you will see charging station, you'll see windmill. Go to the rooftop, you could be having beer or wine sitting underneath a solar panel canopy on the top, which provides you shade. You can look down and there is, House of Guitar happens to be right at this site. And House of Guitar is known for music and musician people come there. So there is a stage where the musicians play and they are entertaining the people. All the landscaping there is taken care from the rainwater that comes down. The green roof on the top is to sit and feel like you're sitting in a garden. So you will see examples of rainwater storage, harvesting, food waste that they take out and they were going to compost it. So they are practicing. So the ideas we're talking about are not theory or something which could be done someday in future. It's already being done. Just observe it and adopt it. And this is the kind of neighborhood, Titus Avenue, Cooper Road, that's where this whole I-Square building is. But he's transforming 4 acres of central Arundequite into a place where people will come to see what sustainability is, where the electric vehicles are. His collection vehicle that collects the waste from the restaurant and local is electric powered. So these are things which are very much doable, and long term they save money for him, they bring recognition, and as a product manufacturer he has a similar situation as a precision manufacturer, that I am practicing this, I am sustainable. And business is given by those who wants to do the same thing. Chandra, you want to come back?
Thank you, Ram.
All right, thank you.
Well, to wrap everything up and connect the dots together, so this is, so sustainability is a very broad topic, right? So we start from the individual to the entity, to the organization we are part of, and it goes all the way to the community, country, and the world. So how do we make an organization look at integrated, in an integrated manner, so that this sustainability is always there? Right? It's not a default, it's a system-based thing. So this model, TBE, Total Business Excellence model, we did a lot of research on different organizations, and what made some of the organizations fail, and some of the organizations really come back from nearly failure, and what led some organizations to be always sustainable. So one example, is Walmart. So in spite of all the threat and the competition that came from Amazon, which impacted a lot of others, Walmart is still doing well. And it has very successfully adapted to the digital challenge, and they are still going through the digital transformation. It is still relevant and sustainable. So the reason why some of these organizations are sustainable, because they're able to adapt, and if you recall that slide which I showed in the beginning, there are a lot of different drivers. So those drivers of change, and many more can get added to it over a period of time. If we understand those drivers, and we embrace those drivers in our business model, then the change becomes a normal process of the way we run our business. And that's what is going to make it sustainable. Now going back to this model, so customer and market focus, the first one is any organization or business, if we need to be sustainable for a long period of time, we need to have a mechanism to understand the pulse of the market and the customer on an ongoing basis. It's not just when we start the business that this is the need that we are fulfilling, this is the product or service that we have created to fulfill a need, and we start that business. But because of those drivers that change, there has to be a continuum within the organization where an outside-in perspective is constantly fed in. The leadership and employee focus. So Patrick mentioned that knowledge. So leadership. When we start our business, because there's so much change happening around us, we also, as leaders, need to constantly be learning new things, new ways, what is happening around us, and that leadership focus is important. Employee focus. So some of the organizations, they fail or they are not sustainable anymore because either the leadership is not decisive enough or adaptive to the change which is happening in the market, outside in focus. You look at the focus is coming in, they're getting the seeds. If you go back to Blackberry, they saw Apple launching new products, but they discounted it. So the leadership was not ready to react to that change, and that's what created that gap. In some organizations, the leaderships understand the change, but they're not able to execute the change at the pace at which it is required to be executed because the employees are not ready. Now, if you want to make an organization digital today, everybody is not digital. Your current workforce cannot be expected to acquire all the newer capabilities overnight. So it's a journey. So now, the culture of the organization is different. Now the customers expect you to behave differently, operate differently, but your employees are not ready with that kind of thing. So that either the leadership or employee. So when you look at sustainability, customer market focus, that is the first part. The second part is the leadership, constant learning, constant understanding, adapting, willingness to adapt, and also the employees, the right kind of employees, constantly upgrading their capabilities. So organization needs to be investing into the employees to constantly upgrade their capability. That's the second part. Third part is product service alignment. So now, as an organization, if you have to be relevant over a long period of time, you have to constantly keep designing products and services which your customers are going to require. Not what they are looking for today, but also in the future, based on the changing landscape. Now, if you look at the iPhone, how many of us knew that we wanted an iPhone? If somebody would have asked us, are you looking for an iPhone? We would not have said that. But somebody spent time and effort to understand the needs of the consumer and create a packaged, integrated solution to deliver that. And that's what makes a difference. So product and service alignment to that. Then the efficient delivery. Now the channel is very important. How do you deliver your product or service to the consumer can create a lot of difference and create a differentiating experience for the consumer and expand your market and revenue opportunities. Now if you are looking at online, you're looking at in-branch, in-store, what are the channels that you're looking at, and how do you, and in all these aspects, the element of environment, sustainability, your partners, your associates, your relation, the employees that you are hiring is also critical. The final one is efficient delivery with the channel, and then optimized performance. Now optimized performance, when in our organizations, we talk about continuous improvement. We have to, employees are involved in continuous improvement. We always keep looking at how can we on an ongoing basis. The continuous improvement is given, but innovation, the operational innovation and operational improvement, these are two different aspects. So we have to keep improving what we are doing today, but we have to also find what we need to do for the future sustainability. And this model, actually helps summarize everything together. So, well, thank you very much. Open for any questions.
I have
wanted to open it, this was a lot of information in a very short period of time, but we wanted to open up the floor for any questions. Does anybody, again, we just hit you with a lot of stuff.
Sure.
How would an organization even